Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a fun and interesting video for you guys this evening as we're taking a look at the Shadow Gang Zero Press demo that was sent to me by the developers. This is a new in development Neo Geo game that's also going to be going over to the Sega Genesis and other retro platforms, and it's technically a demake of Shadow Gangs. And this is the type of thing that was really interesting when it came across my Twitter inbox, and I figured I would take a look at it. Because if you know two things I love, it's the Neo Geo as well as new games from my favorite retro platforms. Now do be aware this is just a very rudimentary demo showing one level in progress. It definitely has some bugs and some glitches, and that's not at all unusual at this stage. This is a proof of concept running on Neo Geo hardware. You can do this via emulation on a real Neo Geo with a flash cart or the MiSTer FPGA core, so you have your options here, and it definitely is promising off the top. I like the parallax scrolling in the background. I kind of like the enemy design as well, definitely giving some Shinobi vibes here with some other games mixed in, which I will show you in just a moment. But if you do want to check this demo out, do be aware that every once in a while it is prone to freezing depending on how many enemies you get on screen at once. But again, this is basically a pre-alpha demo, just standing up a demo on Neo Geo hardware. You'll see there, too many things happened at once and I was able to freeze the game in and of itself. But what is seen here so far is very promising, and it seems like developers have a good track record of making games because this game already exists just in a more modern variant. And I love game demakes as well, where they take a game and reduce it down to new target hardware, and obviously the Neo Geo is going to be a very fun place to start. And it seems like they also have plans to produce actual cartridges for the Neo Geo AES and MVS, and people always love adding new Neo Geo carts to their shelves. Trust me, I'm a huge Neo Geo collector, and anytime I can find a new game that's interesting, it is something that I think about adding to my collection. But you'll see here again as we drop down, if you get too many enemies on screen at once, that's where the game seems to struggle a little bit, but I'm sure that can all be fixed up in further editions. But I really do like the graphical style here. Kind of feels like a Sega arcade game, even though it's running on Neo Geo hardware. The parallax scrolling, all of the enemies do have a nice look to them. The animations are clean as well. Maybe need a couple more frames in there, but it will be fun to see how this progresses forward. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a demake from Shadow Gang. So you'll see here in its original format, it is the same game. It's the same gameplay, showing you levels that do exist, but with a much more modern graphical styling. And honestly, given the choice between the two, it should come as no surprise that I actually prefer how it looks demade on the Neo Geo versus how it looks in its original incantation. But if you do want to check this game out, it is on Steam. I played around with it for a bit, and it is a fun time, and I like to see how these first-person shooting segments will come over to Neo Geo as well. As we move back to the demo here, I'm actually going to be able to get a full run in, because you can complete this demo if you're careful and make sure you kill enough of the enemies off of the screen. And you do have that ninja jump ability as well on some surfaces. If you look up and you actually push up on the controller, you will see your character's head pivot up, and that means they can jump to a higher surface. You'll see that here in a few moments. But the colors, the parallax scrolling, all of the animations are really shaping up to be something that does seem interesting. And honestly, the Neo Geo is a fun piece of hardware, and I always love when there's new developments for it. But you leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think of the aesthetic style so far and what games it reminds you of, because I'm definitely getting some Sengoku vibes here. Not so much in the gameplay, but more in the overall visuals. And you will see you have both your ranged weapon as well as a kick when you get closer to your opponent, and you can power up into that ninja ability as well, or you can totally skip past it. And you'll see here, if you do poke at the enemies just right, you can progress into the demo, kick this ball, and that brings you to the end where you get a new stage to kind of scroll around on, showing you a little bit more of the gameplay and environments without actually showing you what you're going to be playing in there. And you'll see it's coming to all modern systems, including some retro systems as well. And given my choice between the two graphical styles, the retro one 100% does it for me, but watching the trailer for the original game, you're going to get a really good sense of what you can expect when this is actually done and released for the Neo Geo. It also has some really good music, and it's coming across well on Neo Geo hardware. Listen for 45 seconds, I'll be back to tell you more about the project. Some good music there, maybe a tiny bit tinny, but otherwise it is coming across nice. As I mentioned earlier, this definitely has a lot of Sengoku vibes to me, just in the graphical stylings. Obviously Sengoku is a beat 'em up and you have more range of motion up and down on the screen, versus something like Shadow Gang Zero where you are on a linear path, but overall visually this is the vibe I'm getting from it, and that is a fun thing to talk about. On the gameplay side of things, something like Shadow Dancer really is where I feel like this game is inspired by. Projectiles at a distance, being able to attack your enemies up close as well, and the overall being able to jump onto new platforms. That is what Shadow Gang Zero really does feel like to me, a spiritual successor and homage to something like Shadow Dancer. And as we go around this final stage here as well, where you just kind of get another look at the overall graphical conditions, I really do like the colorways here. I like the giant sprites. I like everything you're seeing, including those clouds in the background. So this is definitely something that seems to be shaping up relatively well. It currently is on Kickstarter. If that's the type of thing that you like to do, of course, buyer beware. I'm sure these people will deliver, but honestly, take everything and do a little review of it before you decide to spend your money. But getting new Neo Geo games is always a fun time. Once you get to the end of that second level, if you hit that ball on the ground, you go right back to the beginning of the demo and can check out a little bit more. But take a look at this area here, see what it looks like, and then move back over to the trailer for the original game. You can see that there's very smooth graphics here, and I really like how all of the characters come across more in the pixelated version of them. I'm not saying that I don't like the graphical styling of the original game. I'm just saying I think there's a lot more charm and it's a lot more effective when it actually comes to the Neo Geo hardware. And if that boss right there isn't inspired by a King of Fighters boss, I don't know what is. But this is going to be some fun stuff when it releases. The gameplay on offer here so far definitely is engrossing. You get a lot of good enemies on screen, you get a lot of good graphics, and you get a good look at what potentially is going to be a new Neo Geo game. Definitely, if there is a new demo out for this in the future showing more levels, is something I will cover. But anytime there's new Neo Geo news or new Neo Geo games, you know I'm going to talk about it. It's been one of my favorite systems for the longest time. I even like this animation here where you turn into the ninja. You basically do your own tornado effect and you end up coming out as a different sprite. And this is the type of game that Neo Geo could definitely use a little bit more of. Kind of a run and gun, kind of a hack and slash, kind of a shinobi style game. It does have a genre that I feel like the Neo Geo definitely could use a few more modern games in. But you tell me down below, if you're going to bring one new game to a genre on Neo Geo, which one would it be? I think for me it would be a traditional beat 'em up, because it is one genre on Neo Geo that really is a bit thin, which is surprising considering it is an arcade board. But Shadow Gang Zero is a very interesting look at development into a game. Definitely has some fun graphics, some fun gameplay, and hopefully we'll be able to show you more soon. But short of that, hope you enjoyed the video and hope you're having a great weekend. Leave any questions or comments down below, but we're done and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.